Hey, welcome back to the Pace Podcast. My name is Sophie, and I'm here with my friend Denae, who is the Director of Spiritual Formation here at the Boulevard Church. She's our first guest. Welcome to the podcast. And she's here to talk to us more about pace and presence. But before she does that, I want you to just kind of share about your walk with Jesus and how you got into the spiritual formation world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that spiritual formation and discipleship is something I've been passionate about for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the church, knowing who Jesus is,
Yeah.
hearing a lot about him. But as I got older, I was able to be a part of YWAM, Youth with a Mission. And discipleship is a big part of that ministry. And so I feel very blessed to have people that poured into my life and spoke a lot of truth into me. And so that's something I want to be able to do for others.
Yeah. And then tell me more. I know what you do. Tell me more about what your job actually entails.
Yeah. So really my job is about helping people grow in their faith with the Lord. So what happens on a Sunday morning is really just kind of the starting point.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to create discipleship pathways, which is really just kind of a fancy way of like creating Bible studies and opportunities for people to gather and grow and talk more about Jesus.
So your job is a lot of like what happens outside of Sunday morning in people's faith?
Yeah.
That's great. What do you love about it?
I love my job. I love everyone I work with.
Yeah.
But also I love how relational it is, getting to hear people's stories and just, pray for them and hear what the church is wanting from individuals in terms of like, what they want to study and grow.
And like how we can change things to actually make it applicable to what people want. Like we don't have to stay stuck in the same things all the time. So so I'm curious, like when you got to more of like the college age, how did you feel like there was a shift in your spiritual walk? Like you mentioned you had like a good system going throughout childhood, but like how did things change once you went to college?
Yeah. So you feel like I'm very far from the college age now?
You're not allowed to ask women how old they are.
Yeah. College was actually probably one of the hardest seasons of my life. In high school, I had a really great mentor and then, spent time in YWAM, had great mentorship, and then went to college thinking my faith was super solid. And it was very hard. It was a hard season of like really trying to figure out what I believed. And so it was one of the more lonely seasons of my life where I felt a little bit lost. Yeah.
Would you say that you felt maybe like just confused about what it looks like to follow Jesus? Maybe felt like he was far away?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It was definitely a season where I think my lifestyle as well didn't match up with my values and my beliefs.
Yeah.
And that was, Jesus felt very far away in that season.
I think the reason why I bring that up is because the term that comes to mind is spiritual numbness. And I've recently been in a season like that. I think I'm starting to come out of it, but I hear from a lot of young adults where they're just kind of like, I don't even know if I'm doing this right. I don't know if I'm following Jesus right. I don't know what it means to follow Jesus. I don't know what it means to feel all these things that people say I'm supposed to feel. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on spiritual numbness?
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to kind of normalize it.
Yeah.
Like spiritual numbness is for sure a part of the journey. And, once you've been following the Lord long enough, it's bound to happen. We can't live like on the high all the time.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of things that contribute to it. Sometimes it is sin and other times it's just, maybe unanswered prayers or feeling really disappointed by God or like he's let you down. And I think all of that can lead to feeling very spiritually numb.
Yeah. So you'd say it is a normal thing to experience for someone that loves Jesus.
Totally. I mean, when we look at like the Psalms, David, I think a lot of that is his experience of like, God, where are you? I don't feel you. I don't see you, but knowing that he's there.
Yeah. So I think that's a good place to start because I felt very shameful when I realized that I was confused about if I was following Jesus correctly, like whatever that means. And I remember talking to a friend in my life group who mentioned something about like, he had mentioned getting baptized, and then he was like, I had no idea what the come down from that high would be when something really hard happened in my life in the next season. It was like, oh crap, like this faith thing is real now because I'm a Christian and the way that I'm going about this is going to look so different now. And I remember kind of laughing about it, but also feeling sad for him of like, no one prepared you for the fact that like the baptism it's amazing and it is a high and like a rush to follow Jesus, but it doesn't stay that way, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that can be a little bit of a misconception for some people, like, oh, I just got baptized and I follow Jesus, so like
it's all good now. Yeah. We're good.
Yeah. And I was like, maybe we set you up for failure there because no one reminded you that there is like a come down from that initial point of meeting Jesus. And I had that in high school and then was like, it doesn't stay that easy to like want to feel connected to him, you know? Yeah. Do you think that, what are some warning signs of feeling spiritually numb? Because part of your job is to walk with people through their spiritual formation and like what is forming them and what their relationship with Jesus looks like. So what would you say is a warning sign of somebody who's feeling disconnected and numb in their relationship with Jesus?
I think there's so much that plays into this. But in the first 2 episodes, you and Alex talked a lot about identity and producing and wanting to, you go in order to see results and to see, to find your value in what you're producing. And so I think that is a big, if we don't give ourselves the rest that we need, we're going to burn out, and then we're going to end up in a season of like forced rest where, like we kind of,
love that.
Yeah. And, when we look at nature and how God created the world, it's like there are these, it's very cyclical, everything in nature requires a season of dormancy, rest, even death in order to produce again. But I think, living in this society of like AI and social media and all the tech, it's like we think that we can be like robots, so
and that we don't have to slow down.
And so I think that that is something that leads to spiritual numbness when we don't create space for rest and to recover,
I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about pace and presence, so will you kind of start that conversation, because what you had to say was really good.
So I think we have to acknowledge that people are designed differently, right? Like there's people with different temperaments and personality types. And so some people are wired where that slow pace is more natural. They like to savor life. They're more introverted. They move kind of slow.
Yeah.
And then you have people who tend to rev a little high. They like to go, have a packed schedule. I lean more that way. I like the anxious personality. And so I just think we have to acknowledge for some people slowing down is a lot easier than others. And it's also not wrong, to be somebody who likes to go.
There's not a right way and a wrong way to be a follower of Jesus.
Right.
There's not a box.
There's not like a one lane of how it should look. And I think for me, most of my adult life was filled with busyness. I'm an Enneagram 7, for those of you who
so you
follow
scare
the
me.
Enneagram 7,
they scare me. You guys have so much energy, and I'm a 2, and I like to be cozy, but
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But really, like 7s are great avoiders. They're good at avoiding pain, hurtful situations.
Yeah.
And so most of my life, I was really good at that, like keeping myself distracted, so I wouldn't have to feel
like lots of positivity and
like I'll be with this person and then that person, and anytime I would slow down, I would feel anxious. And so I started to think that like slowing down made me anxious, but really slowing down just exposed the anxiety
what was already
that
there.
Was already there. And so for me, this is a little bit of my story and my background, but it all kind of came to a head for me in 2017. My brother passed away from a drug overdose. And I really felt a deep conviction from the Lord in that season of like, you can't outrun your grief. You have to face it. You can't go around it or over it. Like, you've got to go through it or it's going to come out really sideways in your life. And I didn't really know how that was going to look, but I just knew like, I've got to face it. And so for me, running was a big part of my process. And so, which I know this is very counter to what we're talking about with like pace and
because running is like fast.
It's I mean, depending on who you are. But so at the time we were living in Florida, we had 2 small kids, and there was a gym that had 2 hours of free childcare. So I signed up. I'm like, okay, I'll just like drop my kids off.
You're like, I'll go home.
But I would just like, I'd get on the treadmill, I'd run, and it really turned into this like very sacred space for me where God met me and spoke a lot of truth and brought healing into my life. And so I guess I want to make that distinction of like, yes, pace is important and it often is a part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal isn't necessarily just to slow down because you
Yeah.
can slow down and still not experience God.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's about creating space for his presence,
Yeah.
you know, to be present with him, to be present with each other,
Mm-hmm.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And that can look different depending on who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that starting point is different for everyone.
Yeah. Tell me more about the being present with yourself piece that you mentioned.
Yeah. I think that goes back to identity, like you and Alex have been talking
Mm-hmm.
about. And, um, you know, when we're looking for our identity in the world,
Mm-hmm.
that's just like a moving target, right? It's always changing, like what people are expecting of you and
Yeah.
what's like the right way to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we are grounded in the Lord and we're going to Him for our identity, I think
Mm-hmm.
we're more connected to ourselves. We know who we are, and
Yeah.
we're not afraid to show up
Mm-hmm.
authentically in that
Yeah.
way.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So for you, running became a space where God was meeting you in something that you already enjoyed, and it was applicable to your life. Like it was something that you were doing and you felt like he was meeting you in that space. But did you notice that at first, or in aftermath can you say like, oh, God really met me on the treadmill? Or like in the moment did you feel that? Like what were you doing on the treadmill? Like
Yeah.
what was happening in your head? Or yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it definitely didn't start out as an awareness that like God was with me in
Yeah.
it, but I started to notice I was looking forward to running, and it became a place where I experienced peace, and I felt like God was dropping things into my head and my heart as I was running. So it kind of like as the process went on, I experienced that, and then definitely looking back, I'm like, wow, that was the season where God really. Like, I can picture that little treadmill.
Yeah.
And like, you
like
know.
he was really taking care of you in that moment. Like your kids were well taken care of. And then you were doing something that you enjoyed that was making you healthy. And then you were like, okay,
I actually didn't enjoy it at first. It was kind of
well,
like
I don't enjoy it.
but I do now. And even now it's like if I'll start running sometimes and I'll like start crying before and I don't even
just
really
like a
know
release
why.
for you. Yeah.
And then it's like God, you know, kind of
Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah. I'm curious. So something that I'm starting to learn, even in the process of this podcast and like learning more from people that are listening, is that there's a difference between having a busy life and having a hurried heart. Like you can have a very busy life, but not have a hurried like spirit about you. So there is a difference. And I think what you're saying is it's okay to be somebody who has a lot of things to do, but in the midst of having a lot of things to do, you have to be aware of his presence in all of that. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. I mean, I do think that busyness and pace can be a problem. So I definitely want to make sure that I'm clear about that. Like busyness isn't inherently wrong, but I do think it can become
there's a fine line.
There is like a fine line. And for me, like it started with running, and as I've grown in my relationship with the Lord, he's peeled back layers, and now I am able to be more still, you know, and experience him in that way. But I think the difference is that hurried heart is just a very distracted heart.
Yeah.
And when we're able to, even in the busyness, bring awareness to how God's moving and speaking, you know, we can still be rooted in him and be busy. Because I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. Like,
so
busyness is just like a part of it right now.
And you're always busy. Like, no matter, I mean, college students think they're the busiest people on the planet. And I'm always like, you just wait.
I
like,
mean, you're busy too. But, but it's,
it gets,
it's like next level.
every season of your life has like something going on. Yeah. So you're saying the goal isn't necessarily to like get rid of all the things you have to do, but it's to learn how to be aware of him in all of those moments.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think what's hard about that is it's kind of not what we've been told following Jesus looks like. And that's why I felt a lot of shame about my season of spiritual numbness, if that's what we want to call it, because I was like, I'm not following Jesus how I was told you follow Jesus, you know? But what you're saying is he can meet you in the things you're already doing and in the places you already are. And you don't have to sit still in a room for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's still space for that as well.
Yes. I think, you know, I just don't want the listeners to like feel like there's one way of having to experience God. And I think sometimes we think the most spiritual thing is like
being
sitting
quiet.
in a room, quiet. And there is merit to that. There's,
totally.
Like I mean, Jesus says to be still.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that, but I also know that he can meet us in our everyday life and the things that are unique to us. You know?
And so we can like we can be still without physically being still. What you would say?
I think so.
I think so too. Yeah.
Because for me, it's like still, I do love walking, hiking, experiencing God.
Yeah.
With movement involved, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think the hard part is just I often will feel a lot of shame about how I'm following Jesus in a certain season. And so I've had to give myself a lot of grace with saying what I did last year isn't going to work for the Sophie that I am now. You know, I was in a place, I've had seasons where it's like I'm loving my journaling, my prayers. And then I'll have seasons where I'm loving walking and I kind of look a little crazy, like on the side of the road. And I'm like actually like saying my prayers out loud. And so I have, you know, there's a Sophie that needs that. And then this year there's Sophie that needs to process. Like it's okay if the way you follow Jesus looks different in every season. Because especially you go from college to being a young adult to having kids, the way that you're going to spend your time with him is probably going to look different. But we can always have an awareness of him being in every part of our life, no matter what's happening. Yeah. So you think it's reasonable to say the way that you interact with Jesus will change in every season of your life. Yeah.
Totally. And it should. I mean, I think that's part of like the ebb and the flow and the adventure of being with Jesus. Like it's gonna change. Yeah.
Tell me more about, you said that at first it was the running, that's where you experienced him, and then you did eventually ease into actual stillness and being quiet. Like tell me about that journey.
Yeah. I actually have like a big sign in my house that says be still.
Uh-huh.
It's just a reminder, you know, like this is something, you know, Jesus tells us to do. And I think what's hard when you first start this practice of stillness, it's like, I like the analogy of like you're emptying out the backpack. It's like all the things you've been shoving down in your backpack over the weeks or the months, you know, come spilling out onto the table. And you're like, wow, I didn't even realize all of that was in there, you know? And so it can be overwhelming at first when you sit in stillness because all of those things that you avoid start to come out.
Yeah.
But for me, it's been, you know, breath prayer. Has been a big part of my journey of just taking a really simple prayer and breathing it in and exhaling and, you know, breathing out something that, you know, isn't of the Lord. And also Lectio Divina is something I've gotten into where you take one passage of scripture and you go through it slowly 3 different times. And so I think there's little things like that that can kind of help in the journey of slowing down, creating space, and just listening, you know, like often I think our prayers are us talking, you know, like, okay, God, I need this, this, and this. And it's like, it becomes very transactional.
Yeah.
And the stillness and contemplative kind of thing is more about trying to listen instead of talking.
I think what's hard for me about listening in prayer is it kind of just, it feels so like, is this happening? Is this working? It can be kind of discouraging. And so sometimes that's why I just avoid it. And so I love going on like a prayer walk because it's like every block kind of like a new thing to think about and pray about. And when I get to my listening block, I'm always like, okay, like I guess, and then my mind doesn't turn off. So I'm like, am I really listening?
Is that me? Is that God?
Yeah. And so I think that's why it gets kind of confusing, like being able to discern if he's actually saying something to you. Because some people like audibly hear Jesus, you know? And I'm like, well, I'm not one of those people. And so, yeah, discerning if he's really talking to you and how it can be kind of awkward at first. And sometimes I'm like, was that even worth it? Like, but I don't know. Any thoughts on that? It's almost like we feel like we have to produce even in those moments. Yeah.
Like, what if he says nothing?
Yeah.
It's like,
very weird.
And I think this is where sometimes we overthink it.
Yeah.
Too,
that could be what's happening.
Yeah. And
we're so used to like an end to everything, you know? Like there's a means to the end. Did I use another analogy? I love all my little analogies. But yeah, we're so used to that. So when something like prayer, where it's not immediate, we're very much like, well, I guess it didn't work.
Yeah. And so much of prayer is like, I think it's a big part of the identity piece of like letting God reflect back to you, like who he created you to be. Yeah. And this is where, you know, knowing scripture plays into it of like, does this align with what God's word says? And then having people in your life that you trust and that know you well, that you can be like, this is what I feel like God's saying right now. Like, does this feel right? Like, are you seeing this in my life? You know,
that's a really good point.
I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. I think that's the season that I'm in right now is I'm doing more of like the verbal processing with people of like, this is what's happening in my life. This is what I'm feeling is happening. Can you kind of speak into if you're seeing that fruit in me or, you know, or even if it's something like if I feel like I'm being very gossipy or very like negative, kind of letting people say to me like, yeah, I'm seeing that in you. And if you feel like he's reminding you of that, then maybe that is what's happening, you know? So sometimes you need it to be called out, but also to be reminded of all the good like plans and the purpose that he has for your life. So I feel like I I relate to that a lot of having people that you can hear from him through them, you know? Yeah.
Which is a very vulnerable
It is.
thing,
Yeah.
you know?
It should
of,
definitely
like,
be people that you
exposure.
trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
People you trust, for sure.
So what do you think it actually looks like to be unhurried when you have a really full life? Because we're always going to have really full lives, but how do we be unhurried in a really full life?
Yeah. It's a really good question. I do think we have to say no to things, and that's really hard. It's really hard to feel like we're disappointing people, but I do think as the church, our lives are called to look a little bit different than what we're seeing in culture and society. And so, yeah, but I do think, like we've said, the busyness is a part of it. And so finding ways to create space in your everyday life for God is just, I mean, it's vital, you know? So like, and it can look so many different ways. I think that's like one of the things I hope people hear is that, but finding whatever that is for you is really important.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think also just giving yourself permission to feel like it's not working, you know? Because I've had a lot of seasons of my life where I've tried different things or like different practices that people have told me about. And then I've been like, I think I'm not doing it right. I'm not sure if I feel like this is working, but just being okay with the fact that like he knows that your heart is you wanted to spend time with him. That's how I felt about the breath prayers at the beginning. I was like, I don't know if this is working, but then randomly I just find myself like breathing in and out and saying breath prayers. And I'm like, wait, I think it did kind of like get itself into my rhythm and into my body. Because I'm still reminded of the one that your friend said at that worship night, which was, I am here, you are with me. And I'll find myself saying that a lot. And also reminding myself of small truths like God is a good plan for my life, like Jesus wants to be my friend forever, like all these little bite-sized things. I think sometimes in the moment they feel very like, what's the point of that? But then when you're in a valley, it comes out and you're like, oh yeah, that small bite-sized truth or that small breath prayer like is really anchoring me right now. So I think that's why it's good to have these small rhythms and small practices of like things you say to God, because one day you'll like when you do those rhythms when life is good, you can still keep doing them when life is not great, and then you have that rhythm built and that foundation of talking to him, you know? Yeah.
I think that's really good. And I think they say it's like 21 days to create a habit or something. And so
I'm the worst at creating. Let me tell you, I am the least consistent person on the planet. So you're preaching to the choir, if that's another analogy. Okay.
Well, and sometimes things that don't feel natural or, you know, you do have to give it some time. And then other times it's like, maybe you hate journaling. You've tried journaling and you're like, this is not for me. Or like, I have a lot of like creative artsy friends. And like, I love that creating is how you connect with
but
God,
it's not
like,
for
that
you.
is not for me. So like, you know, you have to kind of find, but I think sometimes we do have to create disciplines in our life and that isn't always easy to do.
Yeah. That is a good point to say that like following Jesus does come with disciplines, you know? Like you're going to have to do things you don't want to do. And meet him in places where like maybe you didn't want to be in that place. So that's a good reminder too, that he invites us into enjoying him and delighting in him, but also like there is disciplines to following Jesus and things that we have to do to be a follower of Jesus, right? Like the gifts that he gives us, like those are free. We're not earning those, but there is a part that we do to stay in relationship with him. So I guess what I'm getting out of it is that we don't necessarily need to completely slow down our lives, like our day-to-day schedules necessarily. But it's more about our heart posture. And if our hearts are rushing ahead of him and like that leads to self-dependence and not relying on him and believing the lie that he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing because we're rushing ahead of him. Yeah.
I do think, you know, the posture piece is really big of like, God is always trying to connect with us and speak to us, but are we in a place that we can have the aware, like our attention is so divided. That's the hard thing. It's like so many of us are multitasking all the time. And you can't have attention or awareness towards God when you're like pulled in 80,000 directions, you know? So I think that's a big part of it is like,
That's a really good point. It reminded me of something that I've heard, and it was like, something about our brain where you can't be anxious at the same time as you're grateful.
Yeah, I've read that too.
And that like totally
really good.
blew my mind because and I started a practice of writing down 3 things a day that I'm grateful for because I was not grateful for much. Like I was going through a season where I was like, I
It's
hate
easy
everything.
to see all the things that are like
And so
sucking.
honestly, like sometimes writing down 3 things, I was like, this is kind of hard. And I would write down things that were kind of like silly. But it really is a good reminder that there's always things to have gratitude for. And the fact that like the gratitude it's counterintuitive to anxiety. It's like so amazing that God made our brains that way. Like we can't be anxious and fearful of the future when we are being thankful. And that is so interesting to me. Yeah.
And it's such a, like, you see it in the Bible so much of like, give thanks.
Yeah.
And we don't realize what that's doing in our brain.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is all these rhythms and these disciplines, maybe not right now are we feeling what we thought we would feel, but down the road, you might be so thankful that you, like with your running in that moment with God, like you might be so thankful that you had the discipline to have those moments with him because they reminded you of something that maybe you don't need today, but you're going to need it like 10 years from now, you know? Yeah. What encouragement would you give to someone who is saying, I feel disconnected from God, I feel like spiritually unaware or numb? Where would you tell them to start?
Yeah. Well, first of all, just, to be encouraged that spiritual numbness doesn't normally last forever. It is a season, and there's like the
and it's not weird
flows, and it's not weird, and everybody has them, and that's honestly probably a season where you're gonna look back and be like, "Wow, God, I grew a lot in that season because my faith was
necessary."
Yeah, it was necessary. Like
your
I
faith is so necessary.
Seeing it, but and so to stick with it, I think is a part of it. To find people to talk to, is a big part of it too. Like having community around you to encourage you. But then just maybe pick one small practice, to invite into your life.
Yeah.
Maybe it is like Lectio Divina or breath prayer or journaling. But just choose one thing and try to see and create space for God to bring awareness.
And then maybe also just having a general awareness of like how he's with you all the time. Like, do we remember that? Like, do we lose sight of that sometimes, that he's literally with you all the time? And something that I'm working on, and this is even happening, like even yesterday, I remember thinking to myself, like, you need to talk to God about that before you call your mom. And I love my mom and she has amazing advice, but I was like, I need to go to the one that created me before I just do what my parents would say is the best choice. Because it's like, my stepdad, Dean, shout out to Dean, I am always calling him with like, what do I do about this? How do adults handle this? Whether it's like finances or whatever it is. But I got to this place yesterday. I was like, why don't you talk to God first? And then you can see like what Dean has to say about this, because I will just do what my parents are like, this is the encouragement I have for you, or talk to adults that I trust. I'm an adult. So talk to other adults that I trust. And then I'm like, but I didn't even consult the one that created me and knows everything about me. I didn't even consult him about it. So I wonder too, if the awareness of him can be like, go to him, even just for a split second before you go to somebody else to get advice.
Yeah, like, do we even give him the chance to speak?
Yeah.
Because we go to everyone else first.
Yeah. And then we're like, well, he didn't move in this way. And it's like, well, you didn't even like see what he had to say about it, Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. That's a good reminder for me. Okay. Any like last closing thoughts that you have about like the pace, presence, that conversation?
I think I'm just really grateful that the church is having this conversation. We're seeing it everywhere.
Yeah.
Social media, I think as a culture, we're realizing like, this is not a sustainable pace that we're all trying to run at.
Yeah.
So I just love that we're having this conversation, and I just encourage people to keep thinking like the pace of love, that 3 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's like we don't have to constantly strive and chase something. Like we are known and we are loved just with where we're at. Yeah.
And I think for me, a lot of hurry comes from a place of fear, like being scared to disappoint people and scared to like feel like if I drop the plates, they break. And I struggle with that a lot too. And that's why I love Sabbath, and that's like the practice that I'm like continuing to bring into my life, because it's a really good reminder that when you stop, it doesn't mean that everything falls apart. Like part of Sabbath is that you have to, you just get to, you mentioned delight, like you get to enjoy him. It's like do things that you enjoy with people that you enjoy. And before I thought that Sabbath was just like sitting still doing nothing all day and like maybe a nap or like, whatever. But when I learned that it was like, I just get to live out the fullness of who I am. And that's such a gift that he offers us, but we don't take it because I think sometimes we feel like, well, I can't miss a whole day.
Or it feels too easy. Like I'm just supposed to like delight in God and the things that he's created and people. And,
And so thinking about a whole 24 hours of not like proving myself, achieving, checking in, it's like, I can't do that for a whole 24 hours. But then you wake up the next day and you're like, everything is fine. I still have my job. My finances are good. My family and friends are good. Like I'm still who I am. Nothing fell apart. The world didn't end.
And if anything, your mental health is better.
You're better. Yeah. If anything, you're more grounded in him. So I think it just says a lot about what we believe about him and the fear that we have of not doing enough, because it's like he's offering us this thing that is so sweet and such a gift. And he's saying like, you just be who you are for 24 hours and be reminded of who I am and how I made you. And we're like, sorry, we have to accomplish some things, So it's a really good reminder that God is asking us to spend time with him. He wants us to spend time with him, and he's offering us abundant life where we get to delight in him. Like we're not going against him. We're actually like walking into what he wants for us, but it feels so opposite because we're so used to achieving.
And I think like rest requires a lot of trust, so it requires trust that your value is still there, even if you're not producing, it requires trust that maybe other people can handle the things that you're trying to hold all together, so there is a lot of trust required when you rest, and that is that's hard.
So just a process.
Those of us who are like, I can hold it, trying to hold it all.
So I guess the encouragement would be to like try it and to sit in it feeling uncomfortable. But thanks for having this conversation with me.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time. Bye.